Year after year, the Nordic countries rank among the world's happiest countries, and their generous welfare services are said to be among the key reasons for this high level of happiness. There is also broad and strong public support for upholding welfare services in the Nordic countries. But why is that? And how prepared are the Nordic welfare states to meet the future challenges? Today, I will discuss these with my guest, Dr. Bent Greve, a professor in the Department of Social Sciences and Business at Roskilde University in Denmark. He specializes in welfare state and welfare society analysis, as well as social and labor market policy and happiness. He has written many books and journal articles on these subjects. He has also co-authored a chapter in the 2020 World Happiness Report with 3 other Nordic academicians. Professor Bent, welcome to the program and thanks for joining me.
Thank you very much. It's nice to join you.
Yep, thank you. So let's start with the Nordic happiness first. So I'm not going into the exact details of which Nordic country ranked first, second, or third in the World Happiness Report, but in the World Happiness Report, the Nordic countries always rank at the top or near the top, as we have seen over the years. So Denmark and the other Nordic countries regularly rank among the world's happiest nations. I want to know what the main reasons are for their high happiness levels.
I think there are several reasons for it, and it has been, as you said, consistently over the years when we have these polls trying to asking people how happy they in fact are, and all 5 Nordic countries are among the 10 happiest nations around the world. They're all 5 relatively small countries. They're relatively coherent countries. They're also rich countries. It's countries where you have a welfare state helping you in case of need. When you lose your job, someone will help you try to get back to the labor market, either by education or support to find a new job. And even if you get unemployed, we have still in all countries a relatively generous social protection system, implying that you still have something you can buy goods and services for, even when you are unemployed and have a living standard, not as those on the labor market, but you still have a reasonable good living standard. So people can, in a sense, feel secure, and not only can they feel economically secure, but there's also a long tendency in the Nordic countries to trust each other. There's a strong tradition for good family life, a good life where you meet each other and your family will help you in case you are in need. So all this and together implies that we have a stable and good functioning societies. Countries like Nordic have trust in government, they have trust in the legal system, and they have trust in each other, as I said before. So all in all, you can be sure that you have a good, stable, relatively harmonious life.
Yeah, I understand. So it's like you have very strong social safety net, and also because of the welfare state, if someone is in trouble, let's say someone is ill or someone has financial problem, so the state is there to help that person. So every person knows that he or she is covered by the strong and comprehensive social safety net. And this actually gives you a very strong sense of life satisfaction and happiness. So as I read more and more about the Nordic countries and their social policies, and also the reasons why they are so happy, I continuously find these reasons, that the welfare state and the strong social safety net, these are the main elements that play a very strong role in the high happiness levels of the Nordic countries. So different studies have already found that welfare state and policies create very favorable conditions for happiness and high life satisfaction. So this is a hypothetical question that I'm going to ask you, and you will be perhaps making an assumption. So do you think Denmark would have been such a happy country today if it was not a welfare state?
No, I would not believe so. And the main reason for this is that, as I said before, the welfare state help you in having a secure life. But the welfare state also implies, for example, that you don't have to buy a private insurance. You have to pay taxes and duties. But if you become elderly and is in need of social care, there is a system doing it. If you become ill and need a medical treatment, we have good hospitals and good treatment there. So I mean, it is also so that you are not only relying upon the market, you're not relying upon your family alone, but you also have a state who can support you in a number of cases. Besides that, the Nordic welfare state has for now quite some time also tried to have a good work-family life balances. They've also tried to have not only an economic degree of equality, but also a high degree of gender equality, implying that both men and women are on the labor market. And today, in fact, more women have a higher level of education than men. There's still some inequalities related to wages on the labor market, but there's an attempt to try to help people. And the children go to good daycare. They have a strong growing up. Most young people get an education and can enter the labor market. So the welfare state helps making what we call, in a sense, also historically in the welfare state debate, that the welfare state is there from cradle to grave.
Yeah, I understand. And if you compare the happiness levels of Denmark and also the other Nordic countries with the happiness levels of, let's say, the United States or the United Kingdom, so the Nordic countries are clearly ahead of those countries, even though those countries are maybe richer than the Nordic countries. So I guess it's not always about the money. It's not always about high economic growth. The Nordic countries have showed and proven to the world that you may not have very high economic growth, like the very rich countries or very wealthy countries, but still, if you can have or if you can maintain a very healthy work-life balance, and if you can give social protection to your citizens, no matter in which condition they are living, so it actually helps a lot to raise the happiness levels of citizens. So from your answer, I guess if Denmark was not a welfare state, it wouldn't actually be so happy. I mean, look at the other countries in Europe, like the United States or Canada or the United Kingdom. So their happiness levels are low.
Sorry, but Canada is sometimes relatively high.
Mm.
And I think one of the main, perhaps I should have said that before, but the Nordic countries, also generally speaking, there has been some changes in recent years, are relatively equal societies. So one of the difference between the Nordic welfare state and the liberal welfare state, like US and UK, are they have higher level of inequality. And when you have higher level of inequality, you have a larger group of society having the feeling that they have lost out. They were not coming, so to speak, on the train when the train left the train station. They were still behind what the other people get. And if you have this feeling of somebody else gets a lot more than you do, this also can reduce your level of happiness. So in this sense, the economic equality, the gender equality, is also part of the explanation. I'm not saying the Nordic countries are equal in all senses. There's still, for example, a high degree of health inequalities in most Nordic countries. So but all I'm saying is that the equality is also an important issue, which you also can see from a lot of articles showing that equality has an influence on your daily life and your understanding of your daily life compared to others. Also due to that, even if we try to say we are not comparing with other people, we are as individuals often comparing our own situation with the situation of other people we know nearby us.
Yeah, I understand. So why is public support for the welfare state so high in Denmark and the other Nordic countries? And it's not only about the public support. The Nordic politicians, they also have, high support for maintaining the welfare state. So why is that?
I believe the main reason is that people know when they pay their taxes, most other people will also pay their taxes and duties. So the relatively low level of corruption in Denmark, the high compliance to pay the necessary taxes and duties is one reason. But the other, perhaps more important reason is that people know if they are in need of, as I said before, long-term care, hospitals, daycare for children, if they have an accident, now somebody will help them. There's a strong safety net, and this implies that people, when they pay their taxes and duties, they do not need to take out private insurance. They do not have to try to find a relative, perhaps, or more expensive insurance. They have a system where they can be sure of their daily life. So the willingness to pay the tax and duties is highly related to that people get something right. And furthermore, that people are aware of that. Of course, there might be examples of what it is not so, but in general, the public administration in Denmark is relatively efficient. So people do not have the impression or the feeling that there's a lot of waste of money within in the welfare state. It is going to for good purposes where people are needing them. So the efficiency within the public sector also implies a stronger willingness to pay the taxes and duties necessary to keeping the welfare state alive and working well.
Yeah, I understand. And because the level of social and institutional trust, especially, is so high in Denmark and the other Nordic countries, so the Nordic citizens are very willing to pay their taxes because they know, because there is low corruption in the administration. So the politicians will not actually, in some other countries, the citizens are not interested in paying taxes because they think it will go to the politicians' pockets. Mm. But in the Nordic countries, it's different because they know there is relatively low corruption and the public institutions work really, really well. So they're really willing, they're really interested in paying their taxes because they know they will get back their money in terms of different kinds of services like, free education, free healthcare, pension, and so on. So I think that actually summarizes and explains why there is this high level of social trust and also public support for maintaining the welfare state.
Yeah, and even if they do not get the money back by getting these services, they know they are there. So for many people, it's like paying into, for what has been labeled by a British researcher, a piggy bank. You want to have money in the piggy bank, but you not always want to get the money out of the piggy bank. It's nice to know it is there in case you are in need. So some see, in fact, also the welfare state as a kind of piggy bank. You save for a rainy day, so to speak, if you are in need of it. But in a sense, you do not hope you want to have to use it. I mean, a lot of people would prefer not to have to use a lot of elderly care, health care, etc. They would like to live a good and stable life. But of course, I'm not saying that Danes and other Nordic people always are happy. In the Nordic countries, like in other countries, people are most happy when they're young and when they're elderly. Midlife, people still have something which has not been fulfilled and they're less happy. But overall, when people then become elderly again, they can see, still I've lived a good life. I might have good children, good grandchildren. I've had a good working life and a good family life. So it's also a question about that you can see that you have been able to do something you would like to do during your lifetime.
Yeah, I understand. So we have been talking about the benefits of welfare state and welfare services. So let's talk about the challenges of the welfare state. So one of the main challenges is demographic changes and the rise in the old age dependency ratio. So these have been described as the major challenges for the future of the welfare state. So how has it affected the welfare state's sustainability in recent decades?
So far, it has not influenced the sustainability of the Nordic welfare states. Part of the reason for this is that people are gradually retiring later than earlier, and elderly people today have a better health and longer life expectancy, but also a more healthy life than they used to have. So in this sense, given they stay longer on the labor market, given they have less need of long-term care and health care, it has so far not been a strong pressure on the welfare state. But on the other hand, we know that when the next 10 to 15 years, there will be a strong increase in all Nordic countries of people above the age of 80. And this will be a pressure on the ability to finance the welfare state in the next 10 to 15 years. Here, it will depend on the ability to keep the labor force working well. But not only that, it also might be an issue about can we get the sufficient number of doctors, nurses, social assistants, etc., who can help people. So we might have a labor force problem as well, which might in fact be stronger than the economic issue, given that if you don't have the necessary good educated labor force within these areas, there might be people who will not get the treatment they would expect to have.
Yeah, I understand. And also you have addressed this in your book, The Future of the Welfare State. So you said an educated labor force, if we have a labor force that is highly educated, which will mean that they will be actually interested in, working for longer years, and they will not be actually expecting that the government will take care of them, which means you will have the number of taxpayers that you need, and also they will not be directly dependent on the state, on the public finances. So that's also something you have like suggested, that if the Nordic countries can maintain a highly educated labor force, that will actually help it to meet the future challenge. Because if
and that has been the case over the last 15 to 20 years, that an increasing number of people take a higher education, not only at the universities, but also of other kind of higher level of education. So we have today a much better and much stronger educated labor force than we have 10 to 15 years ago. Also implying that is part of, this is also part of the reason why people today stay longer on the labor market, because they're in good health, they would like to continue working. So they are, so to speak, saying, this is nice, let's still be on the labor market.
Yeah, I understand. So let's talk about equality now. That is one of the hallmarks of Nordic societies, both gender equality and the equality of all citizens. So what do you think? Is equality more about policy, or is it more about culture?
I think in a sense it's both. I mean, it's about that you have the understanding that equality is part of a good life. It's part of why you can be happy, but it's also part of, you need a majority of parties. In the Nordic countries, we have typically often minority governments, even, to find compromises. So the tradition in the Nordic welfare state to find compromises between the parties, which includes the knowledge that equal societies is also better performing with regard to production, and they're better able to have the necessary income, is a part of the good reason for this.
Yeah, I understand. And let's say if we consider unequal countries, and if they want to increase their level of equality, what major steps can they take? What do you think?
I mean, it's classical economic textbook, that if you want to have a high degree of equality, you have two different measures. You can increase the taxes on the rich, or you can increase the transfer of money to the poor. So the benefits and the services element of the welfare state is a way of redistributing. And I think important here is to say it's not only a redistribution between rich and poor, it's also redistribution over your life cycle. So you receive something from the welfare state when you're a child, you pay when you're on the labor market, and you receive again when you reach old age. So there's these two different kinds of redistribution. Also implies that there should be a generational contract, so people know if they pay to the welfare state, the next generation will do the same. And so far, this seems clearly to be the case, and people are willing to do it.
Yep, I understand. And now let's talk about something about the Danish culture. So does the law of Jante, I think in Danish language it's called Janteloven. So do you think it plays any role in strengthening the idea of equality in Denmark?
No, I don't think so any longer. I mean, we are in fact no longer talking about Janteloven in Denmark. And it used to be that, and you can still find some who say that, why should he or she have such a high income? Why are they having more than I have? But this is not the same as that you don't accept that people can get high income if they are productive, if they find a new product, if they are playing good football, playing good sport, theater, etc., and write a good book, etc. So even, of course, there is some challenges relating to the differences between people's options and possibilities. I would not argue that the Janteloven today is an important issue in the Danish culture. It used to be there, and that perhaps at the time it was part of the reason why people thought it would be good to have, so to speak, a better level, more equal level playing field.
Yeah, I understand. But even if it's no longer prominent in the Danish culture, or like in other Nordic countries, because it's all about equality. So I think there is still this unofficial rule playing a role in citizens' life. I think the Nordic people, the Nordic citizens, they really, really want to maintain the equality among all people. So I think even if it's not, as I said, even if it's not prominently playing a role in people's life, but it's still there, right? What do you think?
It is still there. Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand. So I have the last question for you. So it's the Danish concept of hygge. I think I pronounced it correctly. So this Danish concept has become widely popular in recent years. So can you tell us what it is?
Hygge, as I would say in Danish, it's a long tradition, and I think it goes way back to the family life and countryside life. It's something about that you can sit around a table, drink a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, have a chat, talk about the daily life. You can meet around the table. You meet often in people's private homes, and also having a Danish biscuit, Danish some water perhaps, and you have time to talk and relax. And it's often informal. It's often possible to be there, just talk with some people. And I know also from foreign students coming to Roskilde, they are surprised about how open people in fact are, that they are willing to come and be some places and talk with them, and just sit around the table and talking without having perhaps something specific to talk about, but just the feeling of being together. So hygge is a kind of coziness where you enjoy the other people, want to know more about them, want to know what they think is fine, but also, of course, listen to if there are sad stories. But often it's a good thing about spend some time together, looking out of the window, see a good film together, perhaps also. But often this that you can have a candle, not as much as you used to have perhaps by nowadays, but have a candle on the table and just sit around and have a chat. That's what people would call hygge.
Yep, I understand. And now the last question. What is your personal source of happiness? What makes you happy?
It is my family. I have grandchildren by now, have good family life, but also when I go and see a football game, read a good book, enjoy writing sometime on the good productive process, when I have really time to sit down, write something and think it's interesting, have been creative is what makes me, but also walking in the nature, looking up at the sky, see the stars, the birds. So I think it's a number of issues, but it's also this that I know we have a secure, stable life, and there's something to look forward every day, except on the cold, dark winter days.
Yeah, I understand. I think all the Nordic citizens, they only have this one complaint, this geographical feature of their society, that they're located in this part of the world. And because they're located there, so they cannot actually avoid the long, dark winters. But I think in a sense, because you have the welfare state and because you have a very good work-life balance, so when you think about that, you actually think, okay, I can tolerate the long, cold and dark winter because I have the services. Whereas if you think about countries like in South Asia, like I'm in Bangladesh now, I don't have that kind of social benefits. So it's not a welfare state. So I'm always, worried and concerned about my future, my healthcare, my education, and everything. So I think that explains why the Nordic countries are so happy, the Nordic citizens, because they don't have a lot in their life to worry about. Whereas people like me in this part of the world, they have a lot of things that they're worried about. So, but anyway, thank you, Dr. Bent. This was a nice interview. I really enjoyed talking to you. So, see you some other times. Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye.